In this analysis video, we're going to take a look at the swing of Cameron Champ. Now, Cameron Champ is the young, hot rookie who's leading the tour in driving distance and swinging the club faster by about 5 miles per hour than number 2 in club head speed. So if there's anybody who's going to help us understand how to hit the ball further, it's going to be analyzing Cameron Champ's swing. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to use your whole body to hit the golf ball and what are 1 or 2 things that you can apply to your own game when you're trying to add a little bit of extra speed to your swing. Now, when it comes to hitting the ball far, I commonly hear 2 things discussed with Cameron's swing. One is look at how open he gets at impact. So basically he uses his body very well rotationally for creating speed. And then 2, look at the amount of lag that he creates during the downswing, and then how much lag he still has at impact. Well, I'm going to talk about a few other pieces and why the rotational movement may be helpful for consistency, but it might not necessarily be all that critical when we're talking about actually creating speed. Because if those 2 things were really that critical for creating speed, then we wouldn't have Joe Miller here, who swings the club at 150 miles an hour, so the fastest golfer on the planet right now, demonstrating not getting open at impact and not creating a whole lot of lag or lean at impact. So we're going to talk about what does Cameron do that creates speed and how he applies it so that he can have a little bit more consistency than someone like Joe Miller. But since this video is mostly about distance, we want to talk about what are the things that Joe Miller and Cameron Champ do similarly so that you can pick up 1 or 2 tips on how you can hit the ball further. All right, as we get back to Cameron, let's talk about how to use your whole body to create speed. Because most of the time, what I see is when golfers are on the lesson tee and I ask them, hey, let's hit this one as hard as you can. Typically what they do is they try to max out what they're already using for speed. So most golfers either just use their legs or just use their arms or just use their shoulders and core. Rarely do they use everything. So as I blend back and forth here, you're going to see some pretty dynamic movement happening from his hips as his legs work against the ground. You're going to see some pretty dynamic movement happening here in his core. So when he goes to rotate his hips, you'll notice that his core and his spine and his lower rib cage is working with it. It's not getting totally kind of disconnected or left behind. You'll see that even more from the face-on view, where when he goes and starts pushing against the ground with that right foot, you'll see that this part of his body is moving with it. It's not getting totally disconnected. Sometimes I see golfers, when they try to use their legs for power, their core is pretty much relaxed, and you'll almost see their upper body not move at all as a result of them moving their lower body. And that creates some potential contact problems, but it also robs the ability for creating power, and it can lead towards injuries. So it's a move that we want to try to avoid if we can. Cameron does a great job of using his legs and his core and what appears to be kind of pulling a little bit with the shoulders, but delaying when his arms and wrists are really applying a lot of speed to the club. You'll see that sequencing-wise, he gets the club down almost until shaft parallel somewhere around here before he starts using his arms and his hands, or his hands and his wrists, to transfer all that speed. He describes that feeling of using mostly the body and then mostly the core and then the shoulders as kind of this catapult move so that he feels this really tremendous whip of the club through impact. That's how he's able to create this speed while looking like he's not swinging very hard. But while he doesn't look like he's swinging hard, you'll see his lower body has a fair amount of rotation early, and then it has a fair amount of vertical push late. You'll see from right around here that left leg really push, and he's pushing hard enough so that his left foot is actually coming up off the ground. So turning the hips early and then straightening the legs late are two indications that he's using his legs for power. If you look up Joe Miller's swing, who I talked about, he won't rotate his hips quite as much, but he'll really use that vertical force late, and using the legs even vertically helps create more speed in the handle and ultimately into the club head. When it comes to the core, we can see that he looks like he's rotating his upper body through there, but he's rotating his upper body without lunging forward. So without having the head really drift forward. A lot of golfers who I see who use their upper body and upper core to create speed will tend to have more of a forward lunge where they're not really using their lower body and they're creating this pull on the club with the upper body, but it puts them in a position where they can't use their legs and they can't use their arms very well. Then one of the keys is that the arms get involved late for power, but they still get involved for power. So he's probably starting to apply what feels like arm motion right around in here, but it was soft enough early on so that there was an increased stretch to creating this look of lag. Now I want one of my common messages is this look of lag doesn't come from holding the wrist angle as in radial deviation or hinging your wrists. It comes more from creating an extension of that trail wrist as well as what's happening with the external rotation of the trail shoulder, or basically getting the elbow more in front. You see that as a common move or power move for really good drivers of the golf ball like Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson. But you'll see that when he gets down here, so he's used his lower body and core to get the club down to about here, and then you'll see the arms really transfer that power through impact with a really powerful push from the leg and what I consider, or what I call on our website and in our program, a bracing move. And that bracing move helps whip the club head through, giving a little bit more club head speed. So now, watching Cameron Champ again, we've got the lower body, the core, and the upper body. Now, he's creating 130 mile an hour club head speed, but you'll see that his upper body and kind of his the height of his chest compared to the ground stays pretty consistent throughout the swing. So when he gets vertical and pushing with the body, he does what I discuss on the site as kind of calibrating his spine rotation so that doesn't cause his upper body to move up off the ball. Joe Miller, on the other hand, has a fair amount of upper body movement, especially if you were to compare it to setup. So he might not be quite as consistent, and he may use more force vertically instead of rotationally. So as a result, he gets a little bit more arm extension at impact than someone like Cameron Champ. But you'll see there's some of the lower body movement, and then he really goes vertical there with his lower body. And you'll see when his hips are moving, his core is moving, but again, his core is moving more vertically, so he's getting into a really pronounced crunch pattern to use his core or his trunk. And then you'll see his arm extension through the ball just like so. So while these two golfers appear to be in totally different positions, and they really are, they're going to have different consistency patterns and ball flight patterns, the way that they're creating speed by using their whole body is something that you can apply to your own game. So if you tend to swing mostly with your arms, then if you want to add a little bit more speed, don't try to swing harder with your arms. Try to figure out how to get your lower body more involved. If you tend to kind of chicken wing and really have a lot of arm tension down at the bottom, and you use mostly your legs and your body for power, then don't try to swing harder with your legs. Try to learn how to develop a more efficient release so that you can create more speed with the arms and transfer more of that speed with your arms. So whichever part of your body you're not using for power, that's what you want to learn to use if you want to increase your club head speed. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, then head over to golfsmartacademy.com, sign up for a free membership where you can learn about the different movements that the body makes in order to swing the club consistently like a tour pro. If you're not quite ready to sign up for a free membership, then please like this video and subscribe to our page. That way you'll be the first to know about it whenever we create new analysis videos just like this one.